Hello and welcome once again to the Gold Derby TV Awards. It's our 20th annual event, if you can believe that. And I'm Chris Beachum, managing editor of Gold Derby, here to help us announce nominees in 30 categories today. From our East Coast branch, we've got Daniel Montgomery, Joyce Eng, and Christopher Rosen. And from the West Coast, Latasha Ford, Ray Richmond, Denton Davidson, and Marcus Dixon. We're going to give you the nominees in all 30 categories that you'll be able to go in and vote for. As soon as you see the end of this show, we'll open up that particular event in our predictions center. So we're going to kick things off today with Daniel Montgomery reading the first category. He'll also stay on screen the whole time because unlike other award shows, Daniel's going to give you all kinds of information today about who was next in line, who just barely missed getting a nomination. We're not going to tell you who was way out front or anything like that because we don't want to affect voting, but we'll give you some tidbits along the way. So everybody's going to disappear. They'll come back as their categories are arriving. Daniel and I will stay on, and so everybody disappear. And Daniel, I think you've got animated series first, right?
I do. I'm going to get us started with the nominees for Best Animated Program, and they are Big Mouth, Bob's Burgers, Harley Quinn, Rick and Morty, The Simpsons, and Star Trek Lower Decks. And this category was interesting. Family Guy just missed out by 39 votes, and there are a lot of categories where the margin for a nomination or a snub is like less than 50 points, I should say. So a lot of these were really close races, and a lot of things changed as over the course of voting. So it was fascinating to watch. South Park was in 8th place. Emmy winner Primal was in 9th place. Intergalactic, which a lot of people are predicting for an Emmy nomination, that came in 12th. So it'll be interesting to see where a lot of the other likely Emmy contenders fell with us.
And I'll mention as Latasha joins us to announce the next two categories that our Predictions Center event where people voted for nominees, we had over 1,200 people voting around the world. We only allowed you to pick 3 in a category, and the top choice got 3 points. When you hear Daniel talking about points, the second place choice of a given person got 2 points, and the third place choice got 1 point. So I will disappear now. Daniel will stay on. Latasha's got the next 2 categories.
And on to one of my absolute favorite categories, reality host. The nominees are Nicole Byer for Nailed It, RuPaul Charles for RuPaul's Drag Race, Alan Cumming, The Traitors, Fab Five, Queer Eye, Amy Poehler, and Maya Rudolph for Baking It, and of course, Jeff Probst for Survivor.
Yeah, in this category, Padma Lakshmi was the closest to a nomination. She missed by 17 points, so that was a really close one. But most of the likely Emmy contenders did, sort of showed up in that top 7 for us. I would say a common Emmy nominee, the Shark Tank hosts, they were down in 15th, so we'll see what happens at the Emmys there.
That leads us to competition program. The nominees are The Amazing Race, Nailed It, RuPaul's Drag Race, Survivor, Top Shelf, and The Traitors.
And this was a very interesting category. That battle for the last slot, and I won't say which show got in that last slot because, again, don't want to influence voting, but I will say what just missed it. The Voice was 5 points out of a nomination, tied for the closest margin for a miss in terms of getting a nomination in the category. And then Lego Masters was just 11 points out of a nomination, so that was very close. And then rounding out our top 10 were The Masked Singer and MasterChef.
Hey, Daniel. So the next category is for Variety Talk Series, where the nominees are Daily Show with Trevor Noah in his swan song season, Jimmy Kimmel Live, Late Night with Seth Meyers, Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and The Problem with Jon Stewart.
Yeah, and this 5 was pretty safely locked in with us. Following that, in sixth place was actually RuPaul's Drag Race, the pit stop. Then we had the Jason Lee Show, Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, and Watch What Happens Live. Following after that, Late Show with James Corden, also a swan song season, rounds out our top 10.
And that leads us to Variety Scripted Series, where the three nominees are A Black Lady Sketch Show, Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, and Saturday Night Live. Those three always seem to be the ones that are pretty consistent.
Yeah, and those are our three predicted Emmy nominees as well. And that was a pretty strong top three. The closest miss here was Z-Way. Then History of the World Part 2, Inside Amy Schumer in sixth place, Studio C in seventh, and Tuning Out the News in eighth place. But yeah, this top three was pretty strong.
Okay, now I'm here to do the guest categories in comedy. First up, comedy guest actor. The nominees are John Bernthal for The Bear, James Caverly for Only Murders in the Building, Luke Kirby for The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Nathan Lane for Only Murders in the Building, Zan McLaren for Reservation Dogs, and Pedro Pascal for Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, and here we've got one of the top Emmy contenders missed here. Steve Martin and Martin Short, the duo for Saturday Night Live. They were out by just 23 points. Then Adrian Brody for Poker Face was in eighth place, not very far behind that. Luis Guzman for Wednesday, not very far behind that. One of the likely Emmy nominees, according to our predictions, Leslie Odom Jr. for Abbott Elementary, rounded out our top 10. So this was an interesting category. Oliver Platt for The Bear, another potential Emmy contender there, in 17th place. So again, it'll be interesting to see how Emmys, whether they reflect our wisdom or whether they get it wrong.
We'll see, I guess. Next up is comedy guest actress. The nominees are Iowa Debris for Abbott Elementary, Hong Chow for Poker Face, Taraji P. Henson for Abbott Elementary, Stephanie Hsu for Poker Face, Judith Light for Poker Face, and Shirley MacLaine for Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah, so interesting that we had a lot of Poker Face here, and Poker Face didn't quite make it into the guest actor race. But just missing out here by 14 points was Tina Fey for Only Murders in the Building. Then after that, Jane Lynch for Only Murders in the Building. So that was a close one. Our next Poker Face candidate was Cherry Jones in ninth place. So they had 4 out of the top 10 slots here. And Catherine Zeta-Jones rounding out our top 10 for Wednesday.
Hello, everyone. It's time for the comedy supporting categories. And by the way, we have 8 nominations in each one, and we think the Emmys are going to have 7 this year. And we don't think that's very fair. So we stuck to 8, just as we have in years past. Starting with comedy supporting actor, our nominees are Anthony Carrigan for Barry, Phil Dunster for Ted Lasso, Harrison Ford for Shrinking, Brett Goldstein for Ted Lasso, James Marsden for Dead to Me, Eben Moss-Backrack for The Bear, Chris Perfetti for Abbott Elementary, and Tyler James Williams for Abbott Elementary.
Yeah, very interesting category. The closest miss was Brian Tyree Henry for Atlanta, fresh off of that Oscar nomination. He missed this nomination by just 16 points.
Wow.
James Marsden actually came close to double nominations. He was, by points, not very far out of that top 8 for Jury Duty. He got in for Dead to Me, but not quite for Jury Duty. Some potential Emmy nominees, according to our Emmy predictions. Henry Winkler for Barry was in 10th place. Tony Shalhoub for Marvelous Mrs. Maisel was in 12th. You've got Bowen Yang, who's been a consistent Emmy nominee for Saturday Night Live, in 15th place. I think that's all the likely Emmy nominees and how we rank them in our awards.
Let's just have 20 nominees next year.
We should. Why not?
And moving on to comedy supporting actress, our nominees are Alex Borstein, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Gwendolyn Christie for Wednesday, Io Adebary for The Bear, Sarah Goldberg for Barry, Janelle James, Abbott Elementary, Cheryl Lee Ralph, Abbott Elementary, Hannah Waddingham, Ted Lasso, and Lisa Ann Walter, Abbott Elementary. 3 Abbotts.
Yeah, and this was a fairly secure category. The closest missed was Ego Nwadum for Saturday Night Live. She was 55 points out of a nomination, which is not that large a margin, but for these awards that came so close in so many categories, that's one of the wider margins. Then we have Jane Krakowski for Schmigadoon in 10th, Molly Shannon for the other 2 in 11th. This was very close between like 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, because Molly Shannon was in there for a while in the voting. Then Jane Howdyshell for Only Murders in the Building, and Jessica Williams for Shrinking, 13th.
All right, it's time to move on to comedy leads, and we have 6 nominees. We expect the Emmys to have 5. So again, we're granting an extra nomination, which we think is fair. We'll start with Best Comedy Actor, Bill Hader for Barry, Steve Martin, Only Murders in the Building, Martin Short, Only Murders in the Building, Jason Sudeikis, Ted Lasso, Jeremy Allen White, The Bear, and Defero Wunatai, Reservation Dogs.
Yeah, this was a fairly locked-in top 6. Next closest contender was Nicholas Hoult for The Great. He was 57 points out of a nomination. Then Nathan Fielder for The Rehearsal, Drew Tarver for the other 2, and Muhammad Amer for Mo. Some other potential Emmy contenders, you've got Donald Glover for Atlanta, came in at 11th with us. Jason Segel for Shrinking came in 12th with us. A previous Emmy nominee, Rami Youssef for Rami, came in 15th. You had the 2 What We Do in the Shadows nominees. What We Do in the Murders in the Building. Matt Berry and Kayvon Novak were 13th and 14th, so they were fairly close to each other.
And next up, we have Best Comedy Actress, Christina Applegate, Dead to Me, Rachel Brosnahan, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Quinta Brunson, Abbott Elementary, Bridget Everett, Somebody Somewhere, Selena Gomez, Only Murders in the Building, and Natasha Lyonne, Poker Face.
One big miss that people might have noticed was Jenna Ortega, but it wasn't by much. For Wednesday, she was just 19 points out of a nomination. She was the closest contender who didn't get in. Then you've got Helen New York for the other 2, Elle Fanning, a potential Emmy nominee and a previous Emmy nominee for The Great, was in 9th place. Linda Cardellini for Dead to Me was in 11th. Cecily Strong, Schmigadoon, had a lot of support. Tatiana Maslany for She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. So a very, very spread out votes in this category.
Tough category.
Next, we have comedy episode. The nominees are Barry, It Takes a Psycho, The Bear, Review, Debt to Me, We've Reached the End, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, 4 Minutes, the other 2, Carrie and Brooke Go to an AIDS Play, and Reservation Dogs, Mabel.
And in this category, the closest miss, and again tied for the closest miss with 5-point deficit, was Abbott Elementary for the episode Fire. Then you've got also very close, numbers 7 through 10 are so close together. Jury Duty for Field Trip, Barry for Wow, Abbott Elementary for Teacher Conference, Somebody Somewhere to Ed. All of those were extremely close to each other and really close to that top 6. This was a very tough category.
Barry was robbed of double noms here. And then finally, for comedy, we have comedy series. The nominees are Abbott Elementary, Barry, The Bear, Dead to Me, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Only Murders in the Building, Reservation Dogs, and Ted Lasso. So the Dead to Me and Res Dog stands really came out.
Yeah, and this was extremely close. Actually, I thought 5 points was the closest race, closest deficit. This was actually the closest deficit at 4 points. The other two missed out on a nomination by 4 points. It did get that episode nomination, but no comedy series nomination, just this much. And then almost as close, Somebody Somewhere, which got Bridget Everett in. It was 8 points out of the nomination here. Other potential Emmy nominees, you've got Poker Face in 11th, Atlanta in 14th, What We Do in the Shadows in 15th, Shrinking in 16th, Wednesday in 17th, The Great down in 19th. A little surprising it didn't score higher there. But yeah, this was another really tough one.
Well, we now move into the limited and movie categories, and I've got the 2 supporting races, 7 people in each of these that I'm about to read. For limited supporting actor, Domhnall Gleeson, The Patient, Paul Walter Hauser, Blackbird, Richard Jenkins, Monster, The Jeffrey Dahmer Story, Joseph Lee for Beef, Ray Liotta for Blackbird, Young Mazzino for Beef, and Bowen Yang. He does get his nomination, but for a different show, Fire Island here.
Yeah, and for a TV movie, which doesn't happen often at the Emmys anymore, so that was an impressive nomination. Just missing out with 20 points out of the nomination was Jesse Plemons for Love and Death. Very close to him was Liev Schreiber for A Small Light. And very close to that was Tom Pelphrey for Love and Death. So those were very close to a nomination. Murray Bartlett, potential Emmy nominee as well. Welcome to Chippendales, he was down in 12th.
And supporting actress, our nominees are Maria Bello, Beef, Claire Danes, Fleischman Is in Trouble, Jennifer Ely, Dead Ringers, Niecy Nash Betts, Monster, The Jeffrey Dahmer Story, Ashley Park for Beef, Lily Rabe, Love and Death, and Evan Rachel Wood for Weird, The Al Yankovic Story.
Another great TV movie nomination. I love that nomination. Ambika Maude for This Is Going to Hurt was actually the closest to a nomination. Who missed was just 23 points out of a nomination. And then you've got Billie Eilish in Swarm was in 9th place. And then, you know, a couple of our potential Emmy contenders who we're predicting in our prediction center, Olivia Colman for Great Expectations was in 10th. Lena Headey for White House Plumbers, 11th. Cherry Jones, 5 Days at Memorial was in 14th. So we will, again, see where that goes. And that brings us to the movie limited series lead categories, which I will be announcing. The nominees.
I'll stay on with you just so you're not by yourself.
Great. The nominees for Best Limited Movie Actor are Taron Egerton, Blackbird, Evan Peters for Monster, The Jeffrey Dahmer Story, Daniel Radcliffe for Weird, The Al Yankovic Story, Chaskey Spencer for The English, Ben Whishaw for This Is Going to Hurt, and Stephen Yeun for Beef. And this top 6 was so far ahead of everyone else, but missing out in 7th place was Ewan McGregor for Obi-Wan Kenobi, almost 200 points out of a nomination. So that's how locked in this top 6 was. Jesse Eisenberg, Fleischman Is in Trouble. Joel Kim Booster had a lot of support for Fire Island. One of our predicted Emmy nominees, Steve Carell in The Patient, was in 10th place. Michael Shannon, George and Tammy in 11th.
That's interesting to me in one way, is we could see that people watched The Patient because Gleason got in, but a favorite here for 2 decades, Steve Carell, could not.
Yeah, interesting. But the Emmys do love him. So we'll see not only how many people were watching, but how many people put him in as well. So for Best Limited Movie Actress, the nominees are Emily Blunt, The English, Jessica Chastain, George and Tammy, Dominique Fishback, Swarm, Elizabeth Olsen, Love and Death, Belle Powley, A Small Light, and Ali Wong, Beef. And this category was interesting because Rachel Weisz just missed for Dead Ringers, which was really just 40 points out of a nomination. And interesting because Jennifer Ely got in for supporting, but Rachel Weisz just missed in lead. Then you've got Lizzie Kaplan for Fleischman is in Trouble, Sydney Sweeney for Reality in ninth, potential Emmy nominee, one who we're predicting, Riley Keough for Daisy Jones and the Six, rounded out our top 10. Some other major contenders, you've got Betty Gilpin for Mrs. Davis in 12th. Interestingly, Camila Mendez for Do Revenge had a lot of support, so that was fun. Yeah, so this was a close category to get that last slot for that nomination.
On to the TV movie category. The nominees are Do Revenge, Fire Island, Prey, Reality, and We're, the Al Yankovic Story.
This was a pretty solid top 5. Next, you've got Hocus Pocus 2, 7th place, Boston Strangler, 8th place, Dolly Parton's Mountain Magic Christmas, and just how different all of these movies were from each other is just kind of stunning, you know, because following Dolly Parton is Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe, and then the Disney musical Disenchanted. So we got, you know, sort of runners-up ranging from the Boston Strangler to Beavis and Butthead. So this was and just as wide-ranging a list of nominees.
Yes. And limited series. The nominees are Beef, Blackbird, The English, Monster, The Jeffrey Dahmer Story, A Small Light, and This Is Going to Hurt.
And the top 7 were fairly close together. 7th place was Fleischman is in Trouble. That was out by 16 points. And then you've got Daisy Jones in the 6th, which many are predicting for an Emmy nomination, in 8th place. Swarm in 9th place. A couple of other major contenders for the Emmy nominations. You got Love and Death in 11th, George and Tammy in 14th, Dead Ringers in 16th, Patient in 19th. So that's how they landed with us.
I am sorry about that. I am back to read the drama guest actor nominees, who are Murray Bartlett for The Last of Us, Bryan Cranston for Better Call Saul, James Cromwell for Succession, Nick Offerman for The Last of Us, Prasanna Puwanaraja, yes, pronunciation victory, for The Crown, and Andy Serkis for Andor.
And this was a very close call. Tony Dalton just missed for Better Call Saul, 8 points out of a nomination. Arian Moayed for Succession was also got a lot of support. Aaron Paul for Better Call Saul in 9th place, so didn't quite have as much support as Bryan Cranston did. Lamar Johnson in The Last of Us in 10th place.
Bryan Cranston is so good. He has to, there should be a rule that he has to get nominated for anything he does. But that's
there
just
almost
me.
is a rule that he gets nominated for almost everything he does.
And probably wins too. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Drama guest actress, the nominees are Hiam Abbas for Succession, Melanie Linsky for The Last of Us, Carrie Preston for The Good Fight, Fiona Shaw for Andor, Anna Torv for The Last of Us, and Harriet Walker for Succession.
Just missing out 9 points out of a nomination was Ella Purnell for Yellow Jackets. Then you've got also very close to a nomination was Betsy Brandt for Better Call Saul. Interestingly, you've got Ashley Johnson for The Last of Us in 9th place, actually had more votes than Storm Reed and Nico Parker from The Last of Us, which surprised me a little bit. Other potential Emmy nominees, Cherry Jones for Succession was in 11th. Claire Foy for The Crown was in 13th.
Yeah, here we are for drama supporting actor. The nominees are Claes Bang for Bad Sisters, Ishmael Cruz Cordova for The Lord of the Rings of Power, Giancarlo Esposito for Better Call Saul, Matthew McFadden for Succession, Alan Ruck for Succession, Will Sharp for The White Lotus, Alexander Skarsgård for Succession, and Matt Smith for House of the Dragon.
And Jonathan Banks was our close call here, about 40, doing the quick math in my head, 42 points out of a nomination. Then you've got Stellan Skarsgård for Andor. So only one Skarsgård made the top 8 here. And then, interestingly, we only had the one White Lotus nominee, but from that show, Theo James came in 12th. Predicted Emmy nominee F. Murray Abraham came in 14th. Michael Imperioli came in 17th. From Succession, Nicholas Braun came in 13th. So, our voters were fairly selective about who from these shows they put into their categories. And the way Emmy voting has changed to allow fewer votes per category, it'll be interesting to see if they end up nominating fewer actors per show, or if we just get these nomination sweeps like we have in the past.
Yeah, we'll see. Next up, drama supporting actress. The nominees there were Jennifer Coolidge for The White Lotus, Elizabeth Debicki for The Crown, Anne-Marie Duff for Bad Sisters, Megan Fahy for The White Lotus, Leslie Manville for The Crown, Aubrey Plaza for The White Lotus, Ray Seahorn for Better Call Saul, and J. Smith Cameron for Succession.
And just missing out in this category by just 13 points was Olivia Cook from House of the Dragon. Following that was Sabrina Impacciatore for The White Lotus, then Christina Ricci, reigning Emmy nominee and potential Emmy nominee again this year for Yellow Jackets. Carol Burnett for Better Call Saul, who we're also predicting for an Emmy nomination at the moment, was in 13th place.
All right, hello again. We're almost done, just a handful of categories left to go. Let's move on to the drama leads, starting with drama actor. Our nominees are Patty Considine, yes, House of the Dragon, Kieran Culkin, Succession, Cillian Murphy, Peaky Blinders, Bob Odenkirk for Better Call Saul, Pedro Pascal for The Last of Us, and Jeremy Strong for Succession. No Brian Cox, Daniel. What's going on?
No Brian Cox for Succession. And this category was not that close for the nominations. This was a fairly locked-in top 6. And in 7th place, it was not actually Brian Cox. It's Anthony Starr for The Boys. He was the closest to a nomination who didn't quite get in. Brian Cox was in 8th place. Another potential Emmy nominee and a Golden Globe nominee, Diego Luna for Andor, came in 9th place. Matthew Rhys for Perry Mason was in 13th. Dominic West for The Crown was in 14th. Very interestingly, you've got Jeff Bridges for The Old Man, who is one of our predicted Emmy nominees, or a lot of people are predicting for an Emmy nomination. He was 28th with us. So, we'll see how if more Emmy nominees or Emmy voters saw the Old Man than our users turned out saw it. So, that was one of the more interesting results.
I'm so happy for Patty. And then my final category is drama actress. And our nominees are Christine Baranski for The Good Fight, Emma Darcy, House of the Dragon, Sharon Horgan for Bad Sisters, Melanie Linsky for Yellow Jackets, Bella Ramsey for The Last of Us, and Sarah Snook for Succession.
Yeah, another interesting category where you have some of the likely Emmy contenders who missed here, but in 7th place, actually the closest to a nomination, 10 points out of a nomination, Juliette Lewis for Yellow Jackets. So Yellow Jackets almost had double nominations in this category. Some of the top Emmy contenders who missed out, Imelda Staunton for The Crown came in 8th. Kerry Russell for The Diplomat came in 9th. Elizabeth Moss for The Handmaid's Tale rounded out our top 10. And you got Helen Mirren for 1923, showed up in 14th place.
All right, up next is drama episode, and the nominees are Bad Sisters, Saving Grace, Better Call Saul, Saul Gone, The Last of Us, Long, Long Time, Succession, America Decides, Succession, Connor's Wedding, and The White Lotus, Arrivederci.
Yeah, and The Good Fight just missed out. The End of Everything was 16 points out of a nomination. And then also very close in the point totals, Succession almost had triple nominations in this category. With Open Eyes came in 8th place. Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power came in 9th place for Udun. And interestingly, the passion for that was very high. If we just based this on first place votes, Lord of the Rings Udun would have been 3rd place in this category.
Wow.
So that's how many first place votes that got. And Better Call Saul, Point and Shoot rounded out our top 10.
And a big one here, Best Drama Series. The nominees are Andor, Bad Sisters, Better Call Saul, House of the Dragon, The Last of Us, Peaky Blinders, Succession, and The White Lotus.
Yeah, and just missing was The Good Fight, was 42 points out of a nomination. Then you've got Lord of the Rings, again, Rings of Power was in 10th place. And again, another category where first place votes were really intense for that show. It had the fourth most first place votes in this category, but not quite enough points overall to secure the nomination. And then other strong contenders for the Emmys, Yellow Jackets came in 11th place. Then The Crown came in 13th place. The Boys in 12th place. Handmaid's Tale in 15th place. Mandalorian, two-time Emmy nominee for Best Drama Series, 22nd place.
Next, we have two categories that are not at the Emmys, but the first one is at SAG, Ensemble of the Year. The nominees are Abbott Elementary, Bad Sisters, Better Call Saul, Reservation Dogs, Succession, and The White Lotus.
And Where's the Beef? It's in 7th place with their 31 points out of a nomination. Only Murders in the Building ranked 8th, House of the Dragon 9th, and The Bear ranked 10th. So just getting anywhere near a nomination in this category is pretty impressive because we do combine movies, limited series, dramas, and comedies into a single ensemble category. So this is the best of the best of the best.
And then we have Breakthrough Performer of the Year. The nominees are Millie Alcock, Emma Darcy, Ayo Deberry, Sabrina Impacciatore, Will Sharp, and Chaskey Spencer.
Yeah, and just missing here by 30 points was Young Mazzino. Then Iman Vellani, who was in Ms. Marvel. Mbika Ahmad, who came close to a nomination for Movie Limited Supporting Actress. She came in 9th here. Joel Kim Booster rounded out our top 10 for breakthrough performers.
Or Mbika, two near misses.
Two near
misses.
Well, we'll bring everybody back. We've got one category to go, and that is Performer of the Year. On this category and on Breakthrough Performer of the Year, if you'll notice when Joyce was reading those, there weren't any shows attached. We credit a person in these two categories for anything they did on television from last June through this past May. So that's how we come up with that. And on Breakthrough, which Joyce just gave you the 6 nominees, it is somebody who had a huge career breakthrough year, became essentially famous for the first time. And Performer of the Year, they could be famous forever. So it's just a matter of people. Sometimes it's people with multiple projects. Sometimes it's people that had just a huge, massive impact on television or pop culture. And our 6 nominees are Jessica Chastain, Jennifer Coolidge, Kieran Culkin, Bob Odenkirk, Pedro Pascal, and Sarah Snook. So brother and sister fight it out again from Succession, and some people that are already Emmy winners. And so it's a fun category. Is it three men? Yeah, 3 men and 3 women there.
3 men and 3 women, and it's just as evenly split in the runners-up in this category. You had Melanie Linsky, who did a great job on Yellow Jackets and The Last of Us this year, just missed out in 7th place. Jeremy Allen White, of course, such an impact on The Bear, in 8th place. Quinta Brunson, 9th place. Bill Hader from Barry in 10th.
I think Quinta got in last year under Breakthrough and Performer of the Year. Once somebody's nominated for Breakthrough, or I think even in that pool of 30, 40 people, we don't allow them to come back in again. So, but I am surprised Quinta didn't make it on Performer of the Year because she had Abbott, plus she was host SNL. She's just all over the place for a lot of the year. Every commercial break I watch, Quinta's on it. So all that counts.
And let me give some totals per show, the most nominated show is Succession. It has 14 nominations. Speaking of Quinta Brunson, Abbott Elementary is the only other show to crack double digits. It has 10 nominations. With 8 nominations, you've got Last of Us and The White Lotus. With 7 nominations, Beef, Better Call Saul, and Only Murders in the Building. And with 6 nominations, Bad Sisters and The Bear. And we will have the full list of the nomination totals on the nominations list when that is published, as soon as you're done watching this.
And we'll also launch the winners event in our prediction center really right this second as you're watching this video. We'll launch that so you can jump in. You've got until I believe July 28th to make your picks. You can make your picks now, and then as you continue to watch more things, you can always change them. I will say this though, we only allow 1 pick per category on this round. So boy, talk about tough choices. You got favorites all over the place and you got to narrow down to 1. We are going to make one slight adjustment because drama series and comedy series have 8 nominees. We are going to allow you to rank your top 3 there. So just like this round, the first pick that you make, the one you put in first place will get 3 points. Your second pick will get 2 points, and your third pick will get 1 point. And that we'll just see what happens with that. I did want to ask everybody as we start to wrap up here, was there a particular show or performer that you are really excited to see get nominated today?
For me, it's Bridget Everett. She's been my sentimental best comedy actress all year long. So I've been hopeful for her to get at the Emmys, and I'm happy that she's at least, if nothing else, nominated for a Gold Derby Award this year.
Paddy Considine for House of the Dragon. I think he's on the bubble at the Emmys. It's very possible he will get in, but I love that we gave him a nomination.
Star Trek Lower Decks for Best Animated Program. I love that. I loved seeing also Jennifer Ely get in for Dead Riggers. Interesting that Ely got in and not Rachel Weisz. Interesting that Gwendolyn Christie got in for Wednesday, but not Ortega. So very interesting results.
I'm always thrilled to see Jennifer Coolidge make the list all the time.
Would she be your choice on Performer of the Year?
Oh, most certainly. Definitely my chosen one. Although I do really like Jessica. I do, but I have a very different type of love for Jennifer.
I'm a huge fan of A Small Light, which I think is going to surprise a lot of people and has a real good chance to win at the Emmys. And Belle Pally was, to my mind, the Performer of the Year, even though she didn't make our list. I was glad to see her make the Actors for a Limited Series list. And A Small Light, I think, is going to really kick some butt this award season.
I like that Cheske Spencer got in because I feel like the English has been really positioned as the Emily Blunt show when it's a two-hander between them. So I thought that was cool. And I like that James Marsden got in, but I wish it was for Jury Duty. No offense to Dead to Me, which I also love.
Well, that was what was, I'm looking at these results pretty much every day for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I just enjoy seeing, people move in, people move out. It's very fascinating to watch. And Thursday, I think it was, when I was looking at what I was thinking might be close to the finalists, I saw James Marsden. I'm like, oh, good, he got in for Jury Duty, and I did a double take. I'm like, oh, he got in for Dead to Me, not Jury Duty. That's crazy.
They came out strong to get it into series too, an episode. So
I'm with you, Joyce. I was upset that he got. I was happy he got a nomination, but upset that it wasn't for Jury Duty.
It'll be interesting when voting for the winners if people like fans of Jury Duty end up rallying to his Dead to Me nomination. See what happens there.
I hope when people vote, they actually pick their favorites and not what they think will win at the Emmys. Just go with your heart.
That's a really good point. We call it our prediction center because almost every event in there is a prediction event, but it is really your choice. Remember last year, Succession did not dominate with us like it did at the Emmys. The drama categories were dominated by a passion vote for Pachinko, which won several categories. So it's not a matter of you picking what you think is going to win the Emmys, or as Tom always calls it, joining the winning team. We want you to pick what you like the best. That's going to be tough, like I said, with one choice per category, except for the 2 series races. Was there anybody or any show that didn't make it that really shocked you? I'll go first there before everybody else says it. I thought there was a huge passion vote for Jenna Ortega across the entire internet, and she finished 7th, so she just barely finished out. But I took her out of my Emmy predictions. I know we don't have a single voter that matches up with Emmy voters, but I just thought if she can't get in on an internet vote, I don't know that she's going to get in on the Emmys. And there's only 5 slots at the Emmys for comedy actress, so I'm doubtful.
Actually, interestingly, I wouldn't be surprised if we have some overlap with Emmy voters, because we have a lot of people lurking at Gold Derby who, a lot of the celebrities, a lot of the showrunners, are watching their odds at Gold Derby. A lot of them might be registered users. A lot of them maybe voted for themselves. And, so we might have.
You are right. That's true. That's true.
I'm so
And I
surprised.
will say one quick thing about Brian Cox, since you talked about him earlier. I do have him in my Emmy predictions because the big difference with us and the Emmy voters is that we only allowed 3 votes per category. So I envision somebody who loves Succession going, Jeremy, Kieran, and I want to do somebody from another show, since Brian was only in, 3 episodes. Emmy voters don't have that problem. If they love Succession, they get 6. It's not unlimited this year, but they get 6 votes per drama actor, for example. So I don't think Brian's going to have any trouble getting in there.
One that surprised me too was Yellow Jackets has been very buzzy and popular, and they did not do well with us this year. And what sort of took their place is Bad Sisters did so well. So that'll be interesting to see how they do at the Emmys as a first-time show. We've been sort of wondering how the Emmy voters would gauge that, and it makes me curious if that'll sort of pull from Yellow Jackets with Emmy voters as well.
And I'm surprised that our Emmy frontrunners, Martin Short and Steve Martin, they're sharing a space there at the Emmys, but they didn't make it in for comedy guest actor for us, which is a little bit shocking.
Only one
SNL
acting
only got
nomination only one acting nomination for SNL, and it was Pedro Pascal.
I was a little surprised to see Reservation Dogs and Dead to Me make it in comedy, but not Jury Duty. Once again, Jury Duty. I know our handicap doesn't really reflect, just what a viral sensation it is, but I still think it's going to be the Andrea Riseborough of Emmy season.
I feel like they didn't mobilize in time. I feel like some of these, like the Dead to Me fans mobilized and the Res Dog stands mobilized.
And that could partially be because it's their final shot. Fans know it's their final chance to vote for Dead to Me, or I guess Reservation Dogs was just canceled. Barry.
It has one more season to premiere.
Oh, one more to premiere. Okay, gotcha. Well, Chris Rosen, another comment or any final thoughts from you?
I was pleased about Do Revenge in the TV movie. That was one of my favorite movies last year, and I'm here for it. And I was one of those people. I'll say it. I had Camila Mendes #1 there. I was trying to get her in, but alas, maybe next time.
Well, what do we have here? 6, 7, 8. The 8 of us just have 1 vote apiece. Keep that in mind. We have 1 vote apiece. Daniel and I do watch the results as they're coming in just for the fun of it, but we have no influence other than what we might say here in this video about, hey, please vote for so-and-so. Is there somebody you want people to really consider voting for as we wrap up? Ray?
Once again, I mentioned her before, but Belle Powley, I would really love to see her sneak in and win for limited series actress.
Marcus?
Please vote for Patty Considine. Do it.
Latasha?
Go Jennifer Coolidge. Team Jennifer.
Let's see. Daniel?
It's your only chance to award Star Trek, so Star Trek Lower Decks all the way for me.
Who's not spoken? Denton?
I'm gonna go with Bridget Everett again. Give somebody somewhere some love.
Joyce?
I'm not worried about Succession, so I'll just say vote for Barry down the ballot.
You never know. Like, again, Succession lost
Yeah,
drama
but that was
series
the
last year.
Pachinko stands. It was the Lehman Ho stands. You know that.
But you never know. Some of the other stands could come in from another show.
Probably
You know,
not.
look out for Peaky Blinders. That whenever I see like a sort of a shocking
Million can win that. That's fine.
shocking nomination, I think, oh, if those fans rally, he's got huge fans and he's got a movie opening right now, right as voting is going on. So that could happen for him or the show. Well, thanks everybody. The event is now open. You can go ahead and make your first winner picks in all 30 categories through July 28th. We will be back in August with a fully dressed up video that we'll do from studio, and we will announce all the winners. Hopefully there won't be any strikes holding up people from sending us their acceptance speeches as we did last year and as we did on film a few months ago. And we also have nice trophies to send out to everybody. So it's our 20th annual, so make sure you get out there and vote. And we really appreciate everybody here on our staff participating today, as well as all of you voting. And we hope you have a great rest of your summer. Thanks.